Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, hope you're all well. So I thought I'd make this video because I got a new piece of gear, but also I've been asked a couple of times how I go about recording my bass. I'm not a bass player, as I've told you before. I understand the bass and I like writing bass, but I cannot play because I don't practice. I just play for what I need to do on my demos. But with that in mind, it's really useful for me to be able to get a good bass tone that I can just track in along with my tracks and not have to worry too much about it. I like mixing it and messing around with it and stuff, and I really respect bass players and everything that goes into it. This video, I'm going to be showing you how I go about recording my bass along with my new equipment that I'm using. So as you can see on the close-up cam there, I've got a brand new Darkglass MicroTubes 900 V2 amplifier. Now, up until then, I'd been using numerous Darkglass pedals, which you can see if I hold it here. There you go. The Alpha Omega Ultra by Darkglass, and also the MicroTubes B7K Ultra and things like that. Basically, it's been great, and sometimes when I'm tracking in things like Drop A and stuff, found it beyond my ability level to be able to really articulate that without having to do quite a lot of work in post. And then also using the Darkglass plugins, which has been my most recent venture when it comes to recording bass, is just using the Darkglass Ultra plugins, because you've got the vintage circuit and the B7K circuit, which are absolutely awesome, and they've been really handy. But something that I wanted to do is experience using an amplifier and the things that come with an amplifier, such as, you know, taking a direct out from it, which is obviously a really nice tuned DI signal straight from the head. And also things like blending signals, because one of the things that I've learned in recent years is that if you take a DI signal really clean and then you also take your distorted or tone signal, blend the two together, you can get a really solid consistent bass tone, and that's what I've basically been doing as of late. And that's what I wanted to talk about the new MicroTubes amp, because it has two DI signals on the back, and that's really cool. Obviously I'll go into a bit more detail about what the MicroTubes does specifically, but just touching on that, when it comes to recording my bass, you've got a pre-DI and a post-DI. So the pre-DI is completely clean, as you'd expect, and then the post-DI is with all my gain on it and all my EQ and compression and anything like that, including the cab simulators built into the MicroTubes 900 V2. Then what I do is I compress the living hell out of my DI signal, and then I choose my crossover point. So let's say, I don't know, 180, 200 hertz or something, just for the sake of whatever. And then I take my distorted signal and I then high pass that, so I take all the low end out of that up until the same frequency, and then blend the two together to create a perfect crossover where you've got this clean, ultra supportive DI, and then all the tone on top, which isn't well, it's compressed in its own right with all the gain and stuff, but the compressed bass signal clean DI is just really consistent, supportive. You can hear all the notes, but then all the tone comes from, you know, the post DI, and you get this really nice blend. So I've got it set up at the minute into Logic, so you can hear that running two channels into the Apollo X8P, and one is compressed clean DI and the other is what you'd hear. It's the MicroTube circuit. We've got, as you can see, this graphic EQ here as well, and also a cab simulator using a Nolly IR, which is it's the Mega Meld Nolly IR that comes built into the amp. This thing comes built in with a ton of cab sims that Dave did, Nolly did, and Forrester did. So different cabs, different mics, all that kind of stuff. So let me just show you how it sounds. So this is my bass as it is, straight in. This is a old Warwick Corvette. So as you can hear, I've got compression running on the front as well, because we've got the hyperluminal circuit that you can use as well. Basically, this amp's just kitted out to the max with all the new features. So you've got the hyperluminal compressor, you've got the vintage MicroTube circuit, the B7K circuit, you've got cab sims on the back, you can plug it into your computer, use the Darkglass suite, and generally speaking, you can just do anything you want to get your bass tone sounding how you want. So I'm going to mute the post DI. So this is just the DI signal pre-DI. And then when I throw in the amp on top, mean, I don't play slap, but you get the idea. I can control the two independently, which is really handy in a recording scenario. And then the cool thing is if I throw on my... So now this is a combination of my clean DI and my MicroTubes vintage circuit engaged. And if I use my fingers, it gets a little bit more mid-range and punch. Which is really, really nice sounding. It's just that beautiful combination of a super compressed DI signal that gives you all the support. Again, this is without MicroTubes in. And then with it in. And then this is the MicroTubes without the DI involved. So you can hear how the two work in harmony together to give you a super controlled DI. And that's how I'd go about recording the bass guitar. So as you saw there, I can blend those two signals together. And if you didn't know about that, if you were always recording bass with just one track, one mono track, this is way more flexible. You can do a lot more in order to get the kind of tone that you desire. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, that's quite standard for a lot of engineers and stuff. Like, I think Dave, for example, does that, and that's just how he'd record bass. And I know we did that on the Tosca record, but we also took a mic as well, and we made sure they were all in phase, and basically just had a blend of everything, which I think is better. But if you're at home and you've got home studio, let's say you've got the Darkglass plugin, which I fully recommend, you could just duplicate your track, so having two DIs, one with the plugin on and the other one clean, and just do that same thing. So create a crossover point in your EQ, where you can essentially blend the two together and get a really full fat tone. And the cool thing about this amplifier, which is why I love it, is that it does that for me. I've got two, pre and a post DI, and that's just really, really handy. So let's just talk a little bit more about the M900 V2, because they'd overhauled it quite a lot from the last one, which is, it's just amazing. I don't really know how they're gonna go up from this point because there's so many cool features involved. What we're going to do first is try out a different cab sim. So at the minute we're running Nolly's Mega Meld. So now we're hearing Dave's Beta 52A. This is Dave's D12E. I should say that's using the Darkglass 410. Forrester's Bitey. Let's try Forrester's Monster. Forrester's Punch. Sounds like a really nice soft drink. I'm going to try that with the vintage MicroTubes. So it's quite a lot more like mids in there, it's a bit more airy. And then let's try Nolly's Mega Meld, which is my current favourite. Sounds sick. I'm going to swap basses. So this is Dave's signature fan fret that he's lent me one of the prototypes. It's an absolute beast. This is in drop A. It's savage. Yeah, that sounds monstrous. So yeah, you can see that obviously depending on the bass, depending on the circuit you've got engaged, you can definitely do a lot in terms of bass tone. Now I'd also say that Darkglass are the kings, the undisputed heavyweight titles of modern bass tone, but they can also cater for, as Dave would rightly demonstrate. Unfortunately he's not here today. It would have been great to have him, but he's not here to demonstrate, you know, the different kinds of tones you can get with these bits of equipment. For me, I use them for all the stuff that I record at home for demos and all that kind of stuff, and I feel comfortable knowing that will kind of do anything I want it to do, whether it's really heavy, really intense bass tones, snarly, beastly ones, or I can get cleaner, you know, more warm, rounded kind of tones, as you might have heard in some of the excerpts. But I think it's awesome. And like I said, in terms of how I record bass, like I said, you've got a clean DI, slam it, then you've got your tone, add the two together, choose a crossover point, and that's essentially all I do. I'm no expert when it comes to bass tone engineering, as I'm sure, you know, there are plenty of guys out there, Dave included, Nolly and Forrester, as all included on the impulses you can see there. But yeah, I think it's cool, and I think it's important to find a way to do it at least close to how people, particularly bass, you can't, if you get bass tone wrong, it just sounds bad and it makes your mixes horrible and fluffy and really difficult to control. And I'm always learning when it comes to mixing, but particularly the latest thing I've learned in terms of engineering would be, you know, bass tone engineering, using two signals, blending the two. I used to just do one signal and it was really hard to tame it, whereas this, I got way more flexibility. And of course that clean DI, if you didn't slam that, you could also use that and reamp it, put it in front of something else, even add a plugin on top of that and really blend two tones together if you wanted. So there's loads of stuff you can do. I just wanted to show you, make a quick video on how I go about recording my bass tones. I would recommend, if you're on a tighter budget, I would recommend getting the Darkglass Ultra plugins. If you've got a little bit more money to spend, maybe take a look at the pedals, because they've got direct outs and you can blend signals, take a clean DI, even use a plugin as well as the pedal. Or if you're a bass player or you've got a bit of money to spend and you're serious about the kind of flexibility you want, then I'd absolutely recommend getting one of the MicroTubes 900 V2 heads, because I'm really impressed, and I think Darkglass are just flying the flag for, you know, modern bass tones, and I think they do a stunning job. And that amplifier has more features in it than you'd ever need really for recording bass, and I'm really happy that I've got one here in the studio to use. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll put links in the description box to the plugins, the pedals and the amplifier, so you can check them out. If you've got any more questions on how I go about recording anything, bass tone specifically, then please do let me know, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe and share, and I will see you all very soon.